Good afternoon. This is Craig Modelmog for another week's episode of Wall Street X's and O's. Today's Friday, November 20th. For those of you joining me the first time, this show is unedited and uncut, meaning it is a one-time gig. It's good, it's bad, it's funny, it's crazy. You know what? I hope you have a good time. I have a good time doing it. It's really designed to inform and educate, to weave in my disclosure, the opinions and data on this show are my opinions. They are not meant as a solicitation or an offer to buy or sell any investments. Investments can and will lose money. They are not FDIC insured. And without further ado, we're going to get rolling. We've got a good show today. First of all, I do not have my basketball net hat. A few of you thought that was crazy. You know what? I'm a big college hoops fan. I'm a big KU Jayhawk fan, for those of you that don't know. And college game day last year, we were there, got to watch it, very cool event, and State Farm obviously is the sponsor, and they handed out basketball net hats. And of course I had to grab a couple. So you know what? They're cool. It's in my office. The next time you're in my office, once we are able to return to seeing each other face to face, I'll show it to you. But anyway, we got a good show today. We're going to talk earnings growth. We finished up our Q3 earnings for the year, which turned out pretty terrible. We're going to talk home prices. Fascinating numbers here. We're going to get in the nitty gritty of the economy and unemployment and really kind of cause and effect, how that could start playing out here in the near future. And we're going to close it out with a kind of some things to make you think a little bit. So I've got some interesting trivia for you, which you're going to love. Anyway, kicking it off here, S&P 500 sales growth. After all, companies reported sales growth for the quarter was down year over year, 2.23%. So that's a negative 2.23%. Earnings growth was negative 8.5%. Winners on the sales side were healthcare at 10.85%. Losers, energy, not a shocker, minus 34.12%, and industrials minus 15.15%. On the earnings side, again, earnings were down collectively, was minus 8.5%. Big winners again, healthcare. Reoccurring theme, maybe. You know what? Something to think about. Losers for the quarter, industrials minus 48.02, and financials down 10.27. So kind of a rough quarter, not a great quarter, to be candid with you. Fourth quarter, when I look at year over year GDP, it would not shock me to see another negative number for Q4. That's really what I'm anticipating. Q1, big negative. Q2 or Q1, flat. Q2, real bad. Q3, not quite as bad. Q4 estimated, probably slightly negative. I'm thinking minus 2.5-ish, plus or minus. And then as we get into 2021, I really think we're going to see things start to roll out eventually. But you know what? Obviously, time will tell, and we have to wait on the data. Let's get into home prices. Here's some interesting details for you. Median home price year over year increased by $43,000. Okay, that is increase of an average of $273,000 purchase price up to $318,000. That's a 16% year over year increase. Where did that come from? Here's another fascinating fact. The momentum happened to be in the most expensive homes. You may say, well, I can see that, but homes like that around here are really not moving. So that really gets into looking at those places with extraordinary high home values, California, New York, Chicago, to name a few, where we saw the greatest increase in $1 million plus homes. Then it was 750 to $1 million. Then it was $1 million, or excuse me, $500,000 to 750,000. So we've seen the high-end home is where this real price acceleration has really taken place. Because conversely, if you look at homes from 100 to 2,000, they were flat year over year, and anything under 100 was negative. So when you look at this really discrepancy, I was talking about the earnings inequality, or the inequality here that we see in society from a demographic standpoint. It is legit, okay? You have the high end killing it and continuing to kill it. You have the low end continuing to struggle, okay? Is our country facing a problem? It is. Is an easy fix? No. You just can't give stuff away like some want to do. But then again, it's hard to retrain people in their thought process. So it's going to be interesting just to see how this is handled here as we go forward into the future here. Needless to say, our whole President Biden elect and our new House and the Senate, they've got their hands full. This is not an easy problem. It's not easy solutions. So moving on here, let's look at the economy. It has been 35 weeks since claims began in mid-March from an unemployment standpoint. And I'm not going to beat the dead horse. As you know, I've talked about PEUC claims were up another 233,000. We had initial claims week over week were up a total of 68,000, which is not encouraging. We did see continued jobless claims drop, okay, from 6.8 down to 6.37, which is encouraging. But again, as you've heard me say in the past, that's because you've got people dropping out of the system or going to the PEUC route. Probably another interesting sign here, you've got total unemployment benefits at 21.161, decreased to 20.320. So we are seeing a little bit of help here, but it's not fantastic. Here's the deal. Week over week, unemployment claims went up. We've got COVID really ramping up again. On the news last night, I saw where restaurants are getting ready to lay people off again. We're going to have another round of unemployment numbers going up again. We had Steve Mnuchin, I think it's Steve. I know his last name is Mnuchin. The Minute. He always is the guy. We're talking big checks, is what he says. Glassy Goldman Sachs guy. He's the Treasury Secretary. He basically said the president is not going to extend benefits. All of these benefits end on December 31. And when I say all of these benefit, that is PUA, PEUC, mortgage, eviction, student loan forbearance, and a lot of small business and local government lending facilities as of December 31 are done. We've got Congress about ready to be done with this cycle to where they don't start up until the new year. It's going to be real interesting. The kicker is, what is the economic impact going to be? I think if they do get some type of a deal somehow worked out here in the final hours, you know what? I think that smooths it out until the next group gets into place. If that doesn't happen, this is going to be interesting because we know the COVID cases are going to continue to grow. We know that we're going to see places continue to shut down. The kicker is, what type of economic impact is that going to be? How long and how deep? That is what we don't know, okay? What we do know is that the government historically has really come running to the rescue, of which they will continue to do. The kicker, is it going to happen now, or is it going to be delayed a little bit? My hope is they figure out something now. There are a lot of people that are really hurting bad. We're heading into that time of the year, that being the holidays, when it gets pretty ugly. We see crime rise during the holidays. We see lots of families challenged. I would encourage you all to do a couple things. Tiny and I have made a commitment this holiday. We're going to try to Christmas shop from small businesses as much as possible. Okay, we are going to try to support our local and state and national small business owners because they really need our help. Okay. For those of us that are blessed and are doing okay, you need to look for places to help people out over the holidays. Check with your churches, check with your non-for-profits, okay? Because they are needing help. Giving and donations are down. So you know what? This is not a time to be turning a blind eye to people in need, okay? And I implore you all to go out and see where we can be of assistance. Okay, it's being thankful for what we have, and it's caring about the people that have not. And let's do what we as Americans normally are really good at doing, and we need to ratchet it up during this time. Okay, so that's my soapbox, and I'm going to get off it now. Let's move on here. I'm going to talk about embracing uncertainty. Obviously a big time here, and uncertainty is high. I'm going to start out with an analogy here. The Masters just got done last week. I think it was last week, 2 weeks ago, something like that. I don't remember. Tiger Woods during the Masters made his worst number of shots in one hole in his entire professional career. What was that? It was 10. He scored a 10 on one hole. Now for me, I've scored lots of 10s. You know, we also used to call it snowman, which is an 8. Okay, you score an 8, it's a snowman. Anything worse than that's just terrible. Okay, Tiger shot a 10. You know, and I was talking with someone, and I think when you look at it, it's obviously not a simple game. Okay, you can make parallels to life. Life sometimes is challenging. I think there's forces. I'm going to use golf as an example, and I've actually got a couple others here that I'm going to dial in on that will help. But for you golfers out there, you're going to get me loud and clear. If you haven't ever played golf, just listen to me, because I think you're going to get this. I would say that there are forces in the game of golf that sometimes are impossible to measure. They're impossible to analyze. They're impossible to predict with full certainty. I think it's really hard. You know, you can look at something like a misjudgment or a change in wind. You get a bounce on the green you weren't expecting. It's a very challenging hole. The little things like that on how you execute can make you go from being on target to hitting a couple good shots and making par or a birdie, which is 1 under par, to facing double bogey, or in Tiger's situation, in my situation, many times much worse. If you actually go back and watch hit that actual hole of this past Masters, I would argue he really only hit one bad shot. Now, it was his 6th shot, and he hit it from the bunker, which is the sand trap, over the green into the water, which was bad. I've done that many times for Tiger, kind of uncharacteristic. Okay, let me give you some other examples. I pulled up a stat on the most interceptions ever thrown by one NFL quarterback in a game. Do you know the record is 8? Holy crap, that's just terrible. And what's funny is there are 6 guys that have thrown 7. The most recent was Ty Detmer in 2001. Ty Detmer was a Heisman Trophy winner, okay? I too, the worst I ever had was 5. Unfortunately, it was a state playoff game. We got beat, not a shocker, okay? In college, it was 3. I thought my coach was going to stink and kill me. I really did, and he the way he was yelling at me and the wonderful adjectives he was using to describe my play, you know what? I wished he had a gun and shot me that day, because it'd have been a lot better than sitting there and getting my ass ripped by him, which wasn't a lot of fun. In baseball, the longest hitless streak was by Chris Davis in 2018-2019 season, 0 for 54. All I can say is ouch. Whenever I was like 0 for 3 or 4 in a game, I'm throwing stuff. And people that ever have seen me play baseball know that. And it was not pretty, and it is what it is. I'm a passionate dude. What can I say? But anyway, back to Tiger Woods. Here's the deal. Tiger gets it, okay? Does it make Tiger's worst professional score, does it make him suddenly a bad golfer? The quick answer to that is no. It basically means that he made some misjudgments. He committed to hit the wrong shot at the wrong time. In the midst of that, he probably got an unlucky bounce or 2, and things can sometimes steamroll you. Okay, he understands the uncertainty of the game, but to show that, do you know what he did on 5 of the next 6 holes? He got birdies. So that's called knowing when you blow it and understanding uncertainty and knowing when you blow it, but then it's dialing it back in and making some changes. That's what it gets down to. Coming out of college, like most college kids, when I came out, everything's black and white. You ever notice that? My kids, I've got one in college, I've got one just out of college. Life's very black and white for them. I get that. We've all been there. Okay. What I find, especially, I mean, in this business here, after doing this for 26 years, I find that things get they get more and more gray. Okay. I look at things differently. I think we all do. I'd like to call it wisdom. That's probably a nice term to use for it. But I think over time that our high levels of uncertainty, we start looking at it as from a probabilistic standpoint of less certain. I know for me in life in general, we look at things where it's like, I gotta put one of my cheat sheets down here, as life becomes less uncertain and we start looking at it, what's the probability of that happening or not happening? I think as we learn, we go through experiences, that happens. From an investment standpoint, guess what? There are times, people, when I have blown it. Okay, and you know that. Those of you who've been with me long enough know that. Krager on occasion is a stinking bonehead. It is not for the lack of trying. Sometimes it is just, you know what? Sometimes you blow it. It happens. The kicker is, how do you regroup? Okay? And that's what I want to focus on here. In times of uncertainty, the key is keeping a level head. It is keeping focused on the facts. It is keeping focused on the data. It is focused on what's ahead of you. Okay? Because in life here, to me, there are three kinds of people. We have people who live in the past. We have people who live in the future. We have people who live in the now. The people who live in the past are always looking in the rearview mirror. It's all shoulda, woulda, coulda. Oh, if only that wouldn't happen. If only this wouldn't have happened. Okay. Then you have the people in the future. Well, once I get through this, then I'm going to do that. Once this snowstorm stops, I'm going to be able to shovel my way out. Okay. I'm telling you, neither one of those pathways work. Okay. I strive every day to live in the now, personally and professionally. When it comes to personally, it's making the most of today, because you know what I find out? I find out that where we've come from gets us to where we are today. But what we do today is what is going to carry us into the future, into tomorrow. But if we don't take care of the business today, if we don't take care of ourselves today and maximize today, guess what? The future's uncertainty continues to expand, and there's always excuses. There's always stuff hitting the fan, okay? So I want to encourage you all, during times of uncertainty, you know, the best thing that we can do, number one, embrace it. Number two, live in the now. From an investment standpoint, I hear lots of people when they call me up and they start talking about all the things going on, and they say, well, I think, just so you know, whenever you say I think to me, you know what I hear? La, 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 la. Yeah, that's what goes on in my head. I don't listen to it, because you know what happens? Whenever I listen to people or myself and think I think, bad things happen. It's staying focused on the data. It's focusing on what is in front of you. It is focusing on the path that you are on right now. Okay? Little fun fact, and I'm going to close out here. You're probably looking at this going, holy crap, Craig, are you boozing it at work? The quick answer to that is no. I brought this from home. My son got this for me. This is Tom's Town Gin. Tom's Town is made in Kansas City, Missouri. Okay? Here's a fun fact. Okay? There was, during Prohibition, there was only one town in the entire United States that did not honor Prohibition. You know what town that was? Kansas City. All right. There was a gentleman named Tom Pendergast. All right. He was a big money dude, jazz. He owned this distillery. Probably was with the mob. Not pointing fingers, Tom. Not pointing fingers. But when Tom was interviewed by a newspaper, they asked him, and I'm quoting off the back of the bottle here, it says, they asked him how he justified ignoring Prohibition. You know what Tom's answer was? The people are thirsty. That's freaking great, isn't it? Not that I'm condoning breaking the law during prohibition or being a boozer. That is not it. Here's the deal. Tom embraced uncertainty. I know this is a really weird analogy, but stick with me here. As we go through our days, as we are going through time, this has been one of the most challenging times probably many of us have been through, okay? My little next door neighbor, she grew up during World War II in Berlin, okay? When she talks tough times, she talks dealing with life while there are bombs going off at nighttime in Berlin. She lived to tell, and the other day I saw her walking around our cul-de-sac. She has her little home health care person come in, and the home health care person walks her little wiener dog. Her wiener dog barks at my wiener dog. It's great. We have like a wiener dog cul-de-sac. And I asked her, I said, Helga, I said, what do you think of all this stuff? I said, and she, you know what she told me? This is nothing. So you know what I'm going to tell you guys? Embrace uncertainty. Attitude is everything right now. If we have crappy attitudes, life's going to suck. And I'm going to tell you that. If we work on our attitude every day, you know what? Despite the circumstances, everything is going to be okay. Remember that. Live in the now. For Friday, November 20th, this is Craig Modelmog with this week's episode of Wall Street X's and O's. I love you guys. Thank you for tuning in. It's another good one. And I tell you what, I probably will not do this next Friday. My kids are coming to town, so I'm going to take a week off. So I'm throwing that out there, so don't get mad at me if I happen to take a week off. But you know I love you guys. Have a happy Thanksgiving. Let's be thankful. Let's have a giving heart during this Thanksgiving season. I love you guys, and I am out.